Chapter 1187 didn't just move the story forward, it made the final war closer than ever. Luffy is already throwing hands with the highest power in the world, Elbaf is revealing all sorts of monsters we didn't know existed, and suddenly all the old power scaling maps of One Piece feel super outdated. So today, I'm ranking the top 26 strongest characters headed into the final war, the legends, the Fraud Watch candidates, and the monsters that might actually have a chance against Emu. Now the first duo we're going to look at is of course Zoro and Sanji. While the Wings of the Pirate Kings were looking a little floppy in comparison to Goofy for a while, they are finally proving themselves. They both showed tremendous ability in clashing with the Elders on Egghead, and in Elbaf they are about to beat the amped versions of Killingham and Somers, with Sanji and Zoro both about to reach a deeper form of Conqueror's Haki to do so. They said that Sanji could never do it, but he can. Even Sanji can be a king, which is going to put them in the same conversation as characters like Rayleigh and Gaban. However, Zoro and Sanji aren't quite there yet, and old Gaban and Rayleigh are probably still putting him into the dirt, at least until the conclusion of the Elbaf arc. Gaban's Conqueror's Haki was precise enough to one-hit a pre-amped Summers even in his old age, and Rayleigh's was so potent that even a post-timeskip Blackbeard didn't want the fate. Unfortunately, these guys are getting up there in years and have lost some of their combat efficiency, so they're not quite in that prime first mate territory. However, the top tiers of the current story, Shiryu and Ben Beckmann, are very likely to be in that spot. Shiryu gets slandered a lot, especially because he resorted to trickery to land that critical blow on Garp. However, I'd like to remind everyone that he was a certified top tier, more powerful than even Magellan, well before getting his devil fruit, and he's been consistently shown to be Teach's right-hand man ever since, even after Kuzan joined the crew. His parallel on the Red Hair Pirates, of course, Ben Beckmann, is similarly downplayed, especially due to his poor performance in Marineford. However, his status as vice captain of Shanks' crew should position him just alongside Rayleigh and Gaban. I don't want to see anybody doubting him anymore. Moving on to the next group of characters, I have the 5 Elders. I know some people like to suggest the Gorosei are tiered, with some a lot more powerful than others, but their performance in Egghead really does nothing to suggest that. They're all kind of hacks merchants. I'm not saying that they're weak, but they are reliant on regeneration for most everything. Now, some people might complain that this is still too low, but Warcury, the most powerful one, despite having immense Conqueror's Haki and an unbeatable body, was still packed up by Dory and Brogy, who are Mr. 3 victims, who are also helpless right now in Elbaf. So unless I see them putting hands on a true top tier higher up, they are staying right here, and they are staying on Fraud Watch. Next up, we have the other golden oldies, Garp and Sengoku. Garp and Sengoku were the 2 most powerful Marines of all time. However, they have been surpassed, with Garp himself even admitting that Kuzan grew to be a Marine with relative capability to himself, years before Kuzan even got his devil fruit. Sengoku, likewise, has grown a little senile in his old age, unable to take out a pre-timeskip Luffy at Marineford, although he was still confident that he could take out Blackbeard's crew, so his performance is questionable at best. But he has been relative to Garp throughout his entire life, and I don't see that stopping now, near the end. The new generation of Admirals, though, has consistently shown that they have surpassed these two, and they are ready to take on any pirate at any time, with Green Bull being fully confident that he could take on the Wano forces in indirect combat. Now, of course, he had no idea that Luffy had awakened the Sun God fruit, but his confidence speaks volumes nonetheless. Unlike Garp, who planned to die on Pirate Island against the leftovers of Blackbeard's crew, Green Bull was fully ready to run the fade against Luffy, Law, and Kid at the same time. Fujitora, likewise, has been consistently shown to be a very, very powerful opponent. He sparred with Green Bull briefly at the Reverie. He's probably stronger than he lets on, but until further notice, he's going to stay right here with his fellow draft Admiral. Kizaru, while being a little stronger than those two, is still going to be grouped with them. His performance against Luffy was one of the greatest upscales I've ever seen for a character. But let's not forget that round 2, after he fed Luffy in Elbaf, did make him look awful. He was good for stalling, but once Luffy locked in, he got the Blaze Pizza treatment and went with the weaker Straw Hats. Kuzan, on the other hand, is a little bit easier to inflate. He's got prime Garp level physicals, a broken devil fruit, he's mentally nerfed when he fights Garp. Additionally, he's serving as Blackbeard's 10th Titanic captain at the moment, something Teach would never allow unless he thought he could beat Kuzan if he ever went turncoat. A character that I think is in a similar situation to Kuzan is Prince Loki of Elbaf, who is currently fighting alongside Monkey D. Luffy. He's incredibly powerful, but again, the current developments in 1187 made it quite clear he is not at the level of our plot-powered protagonist. He has the most busted devil fruit of almost anyone in the series. He's got beyond Roger level physicals and battle prowess, and out of anyone in Elbap, he's gotten the most ludicrous hype, with Gabon stating that no one alive could have stopped Harold's rampage, besides Loki, while Prime Whitebeard was actively alive. It is absolutely unreal gas. However, Monkey D. Luffy, our beloved protagonist, would still come out on top in a direct altercation if that were ever to arise. Luffy was confident of that, and recent events have only further cemented that belief. While he does spend too much time goofing around, when Luffy locks in, as we saw at the very end of this chapter, he can be a terrifying fighter, and his performance against the King of the World is only going to cement that reputation further. Now is the time to bet on Luffy stocks. However, one pirate was certainly confident that he could take on Luffy, and that was Blackbeard. Blackbeard, although often doubted, is one of the most powerful characters in the entire series. Blackbeard himself believed that he and the lesser half of his crew would be able to take on and defeat all of the Straw Hat Pirates post-Wano, and although he's only shown underwhelming results on screen, we all know that he does his best work in the off-screen, so don't hedge any bets against him. Another character who was even more confident he could take on half of the Loki-Luffy duo was Shamrock, the current commander of the Gods Knights. Although most of Imu's forces have been lackluster thus far, Shamrock has far more narrative weight to suggest his place here. He was fully confident he could pack up Loki at any time if need be, and he was also believed back in the Marijois days to be more powerful than Shanks, and he also has a Depths Covenant, so he is very likely to be the most powerful weapon in Imu's arsenal. However, the most powerful weapon in the hands of the world government overall has to be Akainu. Akainu is the one character who Luffy holds a sizable grudge against. One glimpse of him after the time skip sent Blackbeard and his entire crew packing, and for good reason. If you're doubting Fleet Admiral Akainu, think again. There is a reason why Crossguild gave him a 5 billion berry bounty, and the other admirals only had 3. I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this next one, but just above Akainu, I have Goat King Red-Haired Shanks. Shanks is an absolute hockey monster. He is stated to be the only one alive that was able to stop Loki back in the day. His hockey was said to be comparable to Joy Boy by the Giants, and his performance against Kid makes him far and away the most powerful of his Emperor peers. He embarrassed Akainu, he embarrassed Green Bull, and his power has been competitive amongst the other Emperors for 7 years, despite his fleets being by far the weakest. Yet, there is still one man that was able to beat him, and that is Dracul Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman. No matter how much you won't like it, Mihawk stays on top. His duels with Shanks have earned him the title of the strongest and were considered legendary even to veterans like Whitebeard. Additionally, his mere presence has made the Cross Guild an Emperor crew, with him being the only known character to have a higher bounty than his captain. He's been directly compared to Shanks on multiple occasions, and it's only a matter of time to see why. However, the world's most dangerous criminal is still Monkey D. Dragon. I know a lot of people would consider this to be a crazy take, but as the leader of the most dangerous faction in the world and the middle child of the Monkey D line, Dragon is destined to be an outright monster, and he is currently the most powerful mortal in the world of One Piece. However, as everyone predicted, the most powerful One Piece character going into the final war is none other than Nerona Imu, the betrayer of the Great Kingdom and the man who would be a god. His actions in the last few chapters have only further established him as an incredible threat and someone who can dispatch even the most powerful characters if they let their guard down for even a second. But let me know if you agree with my decisions in the comment section below. Likewise, let me know if you want to see any kind of content, more of this content. I would love to hear it. I plan to start posting frequently, so let me know what you'd like to see, whether that be One Piece or something else entirely. I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.